All right, what's up, guys? My name is Colin McNeil. Welcome to the theScore eSports podcast. Episode, what are we on, 38, 39? We're getting up there, getting up near 40.
Don't look at me.
It's pretty good.
I'm not on this all the time.
Speaking of looking at you, I am in the studio with Dennis Gonzalez, our resident CSGO expert. We got
Yo.
Josh Burry behind the boards who says yo before I introduce him.
Hello. I wish to introduce myself. I don't know.
That's fair enough.
I want to make my own entry into the world, you know?
Now, we've been doing a lot of podcasts lately about League of Legends because obviously the World Championship for that game is
Whoa,
happening.
did you just boo?
No boo. No.
That was Dennis, by the way. That wasn't me. Do not at me on Twitter.
But with the recent news that the next CSGO Major will be E-League hosted, we thought it'd be a great time to go back to our roots and talk some CSGO. Who better to talk about with than a fellow Canadian,
Oh, wow.
a caster, Matt
We're
Trivett.
out there.
Yeah, we're out there.
We're
You
out there.
may know him.
We out there?
We out there.
We in there.
In there, in them streets.
You may know him better as Sadokist. This is actually going to be his second time on the show. Really excited to.
That's a pretty exclusive club, actually, if you think about it. Like, how many people have been on this podcast twice?
Semler.
Amazing.
Amazing, the LoL player. No, Anders has not been
Just
on
once?
twice. Just once. We did an interview with him off.
Oh, right.
air.
Moses.
Steve R. Hansett.
Yes.
Oh, Moses. Yeah, Moses too.
Moses.
Yeah, a lot of casters.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. It's not as exclusive as I thought. I
It's
really
pretty
devalued everything by asking that question. So my apologies there.
Not at
That
all.
was-
It's still exclusive. And without further ado, why don't we get the man himself on, Josh?
Let's do
And
that.
Let's get talking.
Let's get to talking.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello,
Hey.
Matt.
We hear you with the talking, so that's excellent. Welcome to the Score Esports podcast, Matt.
Talking is kind of my thing, so if I can't do that, we might have a problem.
This is true.
That's pretty much what we want you to do, I think. I don't.
Nope, no pressure.
Unless
No
you can
pressure.
sing and want to do that too. I don't know if that's
I
a
really
thing.
can't. It's horrendous. Every time I'm like singing in the studio, Henry usually just tells me to shut up.
What are the songs? What are the songs?
I don't know. Whatever's in my head that day. It's usually really, really rancid, terrible songs. Like, I don't know. Whatever's popular on the radio that everyone hates is usually what gets stuck in your head, right?
Nice.
So that's
man.
usually what it is.
I suddenly have so much sympathy for Henry G. Like, holy shit.
Unless it's like Migos
I mean,
or whatever, right?
I sometimes go to like Sweet Caroline and Benny and the Jets, but I butchered both of those.
That's
so.
fair.
Yeah.
Benny and the Jets.
Okay.
Anyways.
Oh, started.
Yeah, I know. That was a mistake. It's all gone terribly wrong.
Oh, God.
I have a ton of obviously CS-related questions. I want to pick your brain about Dust 2, about E-League, about the minors, both the Americas and the Asia minors. But first, I would like to congratulate you on your recent racing success. I see on Twitter that you came first in a race. I confess, I do not know a great deal about the race, but you and your partner killed it, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's just club racing. I like to jokingly make it out like it's like the greatest thing in the world on Twitter, but it's just amateur, high-level amateur stuff. So, but yeah, it's still really good. Rookie season. It's a 3-hour enduro that we won, so it's a long race. We did it on one set of slicks, so by the end the tires were completely killed and we were basically on ice, but we held it together. And then the week before, 2 weeks before that, I came third at a much bigger race in Quebec. So yeah, it's going really well, thankfully. Spent a lot of money on the damn car, so hopefully it was going to be competitive, and I'm glad that it is.
And we were worried a little bit there because it went missing for a time.
Yeah, that was not fun. I was away, and my dad pretty much handled most of it because I was in Europe the whole time. And I don't want to go too far into that because I could talk about that forever. But basically, there was an issue with the car between races, between the first race and the second, where Dad brought it home, and we just got all the decals done on it because we were so late with the build. We ran it basically with just the number for the first weekend. And while it was in the driveway, it doesn't have a parking brake, and we have a very slight grade to our driveway, and it ended up rolling down the driveway into a ditch.
No way.
Which was it was really, really minor, but it still cost a hefty amount because we had to redo a whole frame rail on the back. Anyway, so that happened the first time. So the second time I got this message, like, call me from my parents, I was like, well, it can't be the car. So no way it's the car twice. So then I was like thinking it was my dog because it was Canada Day and they're usually boating on Canada Day. And I was like, great, the dog fell off the boat or something. So they actually called me and Dad said, are you sitting down? I was like, yeah, oh God, this could be bad. I knew it wasn't my brother and sister because I talked to them within like the last 10 minutes. So there's no way if they died, my parents would even know yet.
Right.
I was sitting down. He said, "Have you casted yet today?" I said, "Yeah." Like, where's this going? Like, and he was like, "Well, your car got stolen," and I thought it was gonna be your dog died. So I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, it was one of those like, "Holy shit! Did that? You just said that?"
Yeah.
So yeah, then it was gone, and I thought it was gone for good. We had a really, really, really supportive community. Nova Scotia, as you guys know, is pretty small, and for racing, it's even smaller. So my car is kind of stands out. So there's nothing the thieves are going to do with it. And yeah, they ended up finding it abandoned in the woods, which was very, very lucky. I expected we'd find it, but I expected we'd find it burnt or something.
Crazy. So like someone like literally just took it on a joyride, basically.
No, not even that. They stole the trailer. I at first thought the
shit.
car was targeted. They wanted the trailer. The trailer was unmarked. There's actually, believe it or not, I now know this. There's a massive market for stolen trailers because you can register them as homemade and not need a vehicle inspection number, a VIN number. So yeah, they basically saw a plain white trailer and said, "Great, that's turnover for us." And then they got it home and went, "Holy shit, what is this?" And there's a massive race car inside. And by the time they realized they had it, it was already massive on the internet. And then they just panicked and dumped it in the woods.
Wow.
The trailer was written off because they drove it down a dirt road at pretty high speed, we think, to ditch it. But the car was still there and in running condition, but all my tools and parts were stolen. So yeah, but that was still a win. That was still, I didn't expect that. I thought the car was done. So yeah.
It's quite a roller coaster.
Shit,
Holy.
yeah.
Oh,
Sounds like
the whole story is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
we pretty much know who did it, but we're waiting for the police to get enough evidence. But it's I won't go into detail on all that, but yeah, it's pretty wild.
Wow.
freaking crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's like a movie.
Yeah.
Imagine you're the thieves and you open up the trailer. Oh shit.
Oh no, the whole thing. If you heard the whole story, and like at one point we thought Hell's Angels was involved, and yeah, no, it was
shit.
yeah, like it is a movie, but it's yeah. So the car has already got a life of its own. I originally called it Silver Lining, but the nickname now is Runaway.
That's
So
pretty good.
yeah, it's pretty funny, but oh well, we got it back, and we're still fast, so that's the main thing.
I guess now it's just like bizarre because I'm thinking that there's like a Gone in 60 Seconds film just about stealing trailers. And like
Apparently, like there's a guy in Georgia who his full-time job is dealing with people who've had their trailers stolen, because down there there's a manufacturing company and they get like 13 trailers a month stolen.
That's insane.
Wow.
What a weird.
But it's pretty cool too.
industry.
Like obviously stealing things is not good, but
Yeah.
if you steal a trailer, you never know what's going to be inside. You know,
It's like what is that? The warehouse auctioning.
Yeah, I was
stuff?
thinking that same thing
Yeah.
when he said that. Yeah, Storage Wars.
Oh
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
it's
Storage
like
Wars, yeah.
Storage Wars,
Shit.
but
Yeah.
completely illegal, and you shouldn't do it. But oh yeah, anyways, that's crazy. I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, no, it was wild. I mean, they stole it with a minivan, so it's pretty clear they didn't know a car was inside, because like the towing capacity of the van was half the weight of the trailer, and the security surveillance footage of the car, the van driving away, the van was like pretty much like the front wheels were like off the ground. There was so much weight on the back of it, so we knew it couldn't have gone far. Like that van would have blown up pretty quick if it did. So
Jesus. Well, the things you learn on the
That's good.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So, pivoting in the most unnatural way.
Yeah. Almost like the ball joint of a trailer.
Yeah, there you go.
God.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's
Yeah.
not really ball joints on the trailer, but the hitch, that would work.
Damn.
Yeah, I screwed up.
Get
I
your
actually
trailer
don't know anything
knowledge
about trailers.
up, dude.
I am a trailer poser, and
That's fine.
I'm
It's fine.
not calling.
I knew
McNeil.
what you meant.
You're just towing the line, Josh.
I would be lying if I told you that I have ever attached a trailer to anything. So
That was Dennis got it. That was a trailer
That's sort of-
pun.
no,
Yeah.
I got it.
No,
I
no,
chose
I
to
just
ignore
started-
it.
Okay,
I believe
that's
we
fine.
all we all got
That's
it.
fine. Moving on.
It wasn't exactly subtle, Colin. Anyways,
That's right. That's not my style. The next CS:GO major we just got announced is E-League. Yes, I told you it would be the most unnatural pivot.
that was a hard one. Yeah.
It was a hard one. And that's cool and dandy, but probably the most exciting thing, at least for us when we got the press release, was that the America's Minor will be in Toronto.
Yeah.
And we're pretty
Yeah,
hyped
very
about that.
Yeah. Shout out to the six. Six
right.
up.
Yeah.
Six up.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't get the six. What is the? I'm from 506, like area 506. What is this? I've never understood this Toronto 6 thing.
Are we going to explain this
Are
right
we- are
now?
we-
Is this
is this-
happening?
I think, okay, I got to be honest, I don't really get it either, but if
What?
I know that Dennis...
Is it a
No,
Drake
no,
thing?
no, I
It
think-
must be a Drake.
Is it?
It-
Oh,
I
I
think it
know
is
it's
a
a
Drake
Drake
thing.
thing.
I think it's
but
a
like,
Drake thing.
why the 6? Like the Y6, right?
Josh,
Why
you take it.
okay.
Are you just?
Like, this
are
is
you, did you just
416
throw me? Did you just
or-
pull the
Yeah.
pin out of this grenade and throw it to me?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that-
Is it as simple as
Yo,
416,
you know more than
the
me, I
Toronto
think.
area?
Yeah, that's
oh,
why-
see, I was overthinking it.
416. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I call it. That's why I live in
Six
Hamilton.
647. Yeah.
I live in Hamilton, so I call it the 5 because it's
Why
the
not?
905. Yeah.
That's so ridiculous. Why don't I just call it the 416? Like Area 506 is New Brunswick.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's like
Yeah, but
another 6 Newfoundland, maybe. I can't remember.
I hate to say this though, but I think if you say the 6, it's pretty clear at this point which 6 you're referring
I used to
to.
call
Like,
it YYZ though. Like what up? I guess that's Mississauga.
The Z.
no,
Don't you? Yeah,
Z.
don't you mean YYZ?
YYZ?
Sorry,
well,
you're
YYZ
right.
is the
Get out.
YYZ is the airport code though.
Yeah.
I
Like
know.
so,
That's how I used to refer to Toronto. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to YYZ.
and the Rush song also.
Yeah, they
Which
in,
is great,
Yes.
actually.
What is YEG? Is that Edmonton?
Yes.
So I know in Edmonton
yeah.
they call it like I don't know
Yeg.
if they say Yeg. Do they say Yeg?
Do they say
Yeah.
Yeg?
Yeah, yeah.
The Yak.
What up? I'm in the
Interesting.
Yeg. Post it up.
We- in the
Edmonton's
ease.
a weird place. Let's just leave them alone.
They have an ice district.
Leave the Edmontonians alone.
Leave them alone. Do you know yet? We don't have a lot of details, but do you know if you might be casting? The minor?
So the minor, interestingly enough, literally 20 minutes ago, I sent them a text message because let's see if I got a message back. Maybe I can tell you right now.
Oh wow.
Breaking.
No, I didn't get one back yet.
oh.
It sounds like they did reach out to me for the Toronto one, which is really cool because it's Canadian and I would have loved to have done it.
Yeah.
But as with the entire bombshell that was dropped, obviously the minors were really last minute and deployed basically over top of both Epicenter and Star Series.
Yes.
Which I was committed to both. So Epicenter, I'll definitely be there. I have my Russian visa. Don't know how they swing that one, but I walked in and got it. And I was supposed to go to China, but the China one, they didn't pull the same strings, and I don't see a way in which I get my visa in time. But by the time I figured out that it probably wasn't possible that I was going to Star Series, I hadn't answered Toronto because I had to give Star Series priority. They asked me first, and I'd already said yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've now gone back to them and said I can do Toronto, but I'm not sure if it's booked out or not. So I don't know if I'm doing it or not, and I don't know who their talent lineup is.
Shit.
But I would assume guys like Scrawny, Launders, etc. I'll find out here in the next 2 or 3 hours, I imagine.
Man, I would love for you to be able to.
For
That
sure.
would be amazing.
Yeah,
Sivo, get on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Book this man.
Wow.
Get this event elevated.
Are you his promoter now, or like what's the deal?
Yeah, let's go. I mean, I'll give you 5%.
Fuck
Whoa.
yeah.
That's a decent.
I'm there, dude. I'll get you some coffee. Henry G, can I freshen your drink, sir?
He'll sing with you. He'll sing as well.
No, I will. Yeah, shit.
Wow.
Henry will hate us both. It's fine.
Oh, we'll hate 2 Canadians. That's good.
Yo, you're compromised, Colin. You're compromised.
My journalistic
Yeah,
integrity.
you're done. You're done. You're cut. You're off the team.
Well, I know Dennis and I we're gonna be there, and we hope to see you there as well, Matt. Hopefully, Sivo gets their stuff together, and you're able to do that because that would be hype as shit.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
to be fair though, just to say that, I'd love to be there, but if I'm not, don't be mad at Sivo because they had to make a decision to get talent in to book it in time. Because if I come back and said no, and then they didn't have anyone, they'd be in an awkward position. So
Fair.
I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I don't think that's their fault. They at least asked, so
Fair.
credit to them there.
I'll be mad at them.
Okay.
Dennis quietly like,
I tried, Sivo. I'm sorry.
Don't at them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
Probably we'll talk a little bit more, I think, about the majors and minors going forward. But actually, what I really, really want to get your take on is Dust 2. Have you loaded into the beta? Have you played the new Dust 2?
That's coming in the next hour as well.
Oh, sick.
I just finished rebuilding my computer, so it's
Nice.
literally just doing some installs. I could do it on my laptop, but I haven't bothered. I have been reading some of the stuff. The no skybox open thing kind of makes me a little disappointed. I think that would have opened a lot more on the map.
Okay.
Obviously, I was the one that started the conversation about taking the roof off the market.
Yeah.
Which I don't think maybe is the best idea. The reason I liked that idea is because I thought the CTs could use it to their advantage as well, because they could deploy smoke in the tunnels and slow the Ts from coming in. Whereas if you just removed the skybox, the Ts could fake from any point on the map, and the CTs would have to deploy more utility early to predict if it was going to be a fake or not. Henry came up with a really good one. If you flip the doors around, and then you open the skyboxes, you create a possibility to have more strength in middle, because I maintain that I don't think the issue with the B side is holding it directly.
Okay.
I think, even though Dupree said, it's the hardest place to hold, I don't think B is that hard to hold, because there's only one way into B. What's hard to hold is mid to B.
Yeah.
As soon as you lose mid, then B becomes impossible.
Right.
So I think there's a bigger issue in how you set up your team to hold mid and B at the same time. So if they swapped the doors around so that instead of having it so when you walked up to B and looked in the doors, you look at the bomb, but rather it's swapped so you could look at the tunnels from mid, then I think you can play a 2 mid, 1 B and have a smarter rotation or have an op in mid that can protect B as well as the mid doors. And I think that's viable. So I agree with Henry saying swapping the doors in B so they're the other direction and then opening the skybox so the T's could potentially smoke that off. But then that telegraphs perhaps that they're going that way. So I think that was an option, but the fact that they didn't lift the skyboxes at all was like, I don't know if I agree.
Yeah. I like the ton is much brighter, so I think maybe
that's good. I do agree with that.
Yeah. So I think at least holding that the one angle into B is a little bit easier just from a visual perspective, but like overall the overall strategic change to Dust 2 is very, very minimal, and it's kind of disappointing.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
I actually thought that we were going to have some major structural changes. But it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like I love the sort of like the pearly white instead of the dusty brown. I just think like the whole A long corridor specifically. It's just it's like sightseeing. It's so nice.
Yeah.
I don't like it because I feel like we've moved too far away from 1.6. Okay.
We need
Like,
that.
Have you gone back to play 1.6 recently? Because I think we've moved further away than you think anyway. Like I went back to play it like 6 months ago, and I was like, holy shit. It's like meeting your hero. Everyone's like, oh, 1.6 was so much better. You go back and play it. It's actually not. Let me break it to you now. It's actually not.
Well, I will be sure to forget my heroes then because, it was... I don't know, like, it looks so white. And it's not how I remember that map.
It's
So very white, racist. You know?
Hashtag Dust 2 so white. Get that trending.
Yo,
It's really white.
Speaking of, I don't know, Matt, if you must have seen like some of the new T character models. Straight up, some of them are whitewashed. Like some of them are like very Caucasian looking. People.
Dude, there used to be the guy with a green sweater, like a green mock neck sweater, the League Crew dude, right? Like, come on. Who wears a green mock neck sweater these days? I would be suspicious of that guy right away.
Exactly, yeah.
He's clearly a terrorist.
Yeah, I feel like that's like an IRA kind of uniform right there, you know?
IRA, the Ned Flanders look, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that I will say I agree with you, ESCA's admin, saying, I think earlier this morning, maybe it was last night, I don't know, I have no concept of time anymore. Being able to pick your T model or CT model was like part of the fun.
Yes.
Like all Elite Crew or all Arctic Avengers.
Exactly,
and,
yeah.
The Arctic Avengers on like Dust 2, which made no sense. Why you would get like snow camo. I thought that was part of the fun. It's like completely irrelevant to the gameplay. Although you could argue that some color tones match better with your surroundings.
Honestly, yeah.
You could argue.
I heard that some
but I
teams...
thought it was pretty cool that you could do that.
Yeah. No, I heard some teams actually did coordinate their models, so it's easier to visually recognize what team they were on.
More so on the terrorist side, because the CT ones were all black pretty much.
Yeah.
They're just at different helmets, but the CTs had very different colors you can pick from.
For sure.
100%. There are some T models that I find very difficult to see at the on certain Dust 2 textures. The old Dust 2, the Dust 2 we have now. The other thing is, like, no joke, the picking your character model thing, I would actually fucking love to have a statistics about that, about character model picks. Like, let's just say you take 6 months and you look at what the most picked model is and things like that, and you could actually discern some interesting data from that. Some of it would be like kind of frivolous, like kind of for fun, you know? But no joke.
Totally.
Like, that would be awesome.
I miss Elite Crew.
Yeah.
Let Elite Crew be a thing you can choose because Elite Crew was the best. And honestly, you knew if you were in a pub in 1.6 and there was a guy on the other team hacking, guaranteed he was Elite Crew. He was on T side. There's no question. So I miss it. I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
We used to have like the graffitis that were already on the map, not the spray, like the modern graffitis, but like where it says Goose, for example. There used to be Elite Crew ones all over the place.
Yeah.
Like 1337 KR3W everywhere. Now that's gone too. Like, if you want to talk nostalgia about 1.6, that's it.
Yeah,
for me at least. That like Elite Crew is like that was the shit. We used to all pick Elite Crew.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here's a message to E-League. If you win the major, you get the Elite Crew skin. That's it.
Whoa. How do they make that happen?
$1 million. That actually just goes.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can have Elite Crew.
Yeah.
If you want to trade in your share for Elite Crew, come on, how epic would that be?
That would be kind of cool. Major winners get a different skin they wear in game or something. I don't know. They already get the medals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We were running around in the Dust 2 beta like a few minutes
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
before we
yeah,
came
right
here. We
before.
didn't have that much time, but one of the things that the non-cosmetic things that I felt like I noticed, and honestly, this I don't know if this is true or not. I felt like all the doors were way wider apart, like the
Really?
opening,
The double doors.
all instances of double doors at A long and at mid, were,
which I think in every case except for mid, that's a good thing.
okay.
Yeah.
I still think the mid pick, it's become such an integral part of the map that everyone is like, oh, the mid pick, you got to jump, you got to make it, you got to make it. Name another map in the world where the CTs, without doing anything wrong, can be in a 5 versus 4 off the start of the map.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, I
It's-
think that was actually there at the start to create sniper battles, but then people get so good at hitting that shot that it's just developed into part of the meta that wasn't really intended. And I'm going to say it. I know there are lots of people that would disagree, and I can totally understand the disagreement. I think if the mid pick wasn't there anymore, I wouldn't be that mad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and to that point, the body wall bang, it got to a point where other people, not necessarily the general public, but like other people, I think Kenny S was hitting it. I think
Yep.
Davey was hitting it or something like that. That was removed
Davey had a
immediately.
different one. His is from the fence in the back of spawn. But yeah,
Right.
same idea.
Yeah, same idea. It was removed immediately by the map maker because like you just have a 5v4 immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's
and
that's
yet
Dust
Dust
2.
2, it's been there forever, and no one says anything because it's like, oh, it's part of the map. Well, I don't know. Let's go back in time and figure out if it was intended to be or not. I don't think it's really cool that the CTs go down to a 5 versus 4 right away, especially when mid and B is already so hard to hold.
Another major change is it seems that catwalk is way wider now.
Way wider, yeah.
Which is interesting. I guess Dennis
Yeah.
and I were just sort of talking earlier. Like, I suppose that's make it harder to hold, harder to smoke.
I think harder.
I think the other way
yeah.
around. I think
Okay.
it's easier for the CTs to get aggressive on it because they'll have more movement and then more opening. I know it's really linear as before, but the fact that it was so tight of a position to get the CTs into to get any information, and you couldn't really fall back. Now I think there's more room for maneuver there. Hopefully, I haven't jumped in and seen it firsthand, but I've looked at some videos. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, honestly for me, Cat, when I'm playing the CT side, that's my killing area. Like
Yeah.
that's my home. If you step on a Cat, we're gonna have a problem.
They messed up your home.
Yeah,
man.
and what I noticed is when Dennis was looking at it, it looks like the angle to tunnels is a little different, and that really upsets me because
yeah, maybe.
I loved being able to hold Cat, and then if I see a guy come down tunnels, like just you hold that whole sort of like weird mid side angle. I really like that a lot, and it looks like you have to be a lot closer to the edge of Cat to really get an angle down there now, and that to me is really scary because I don't want to be exposed to like T spawn
mid,
at
yeah.
all. So
The thing is, though, like you got to think the other way too. Though, like how many pro teams were actually putting pressure on Cat?
Yeah.
yeah,
It was prevalent at the start. Like one of the players actually, even though I don't think he's that great of a player. Sorry, Zach.
Oh.
TM when he was with Elevate, I think he was one of the best Cat players around because he was one of the only guys actually playing it. Like he would get aggressive and he would win duels there. But most teams were running the TSM/Astralis former setup when they had Cajun B on the team still, which was op car, one long. Maybe you had one on Goose to distract, or you had one in CT to swing and protect, and usually that was Zippix. And no one was actually pressuring Cat, so it was almost default map control if you could make it up mid. Now I think with the width, maybe there has to be more attention to it. Maybe that changes the meta back. But again, that's something we have to see played out.
that's fine. You come to Cat.
Yeah.
I'll be waiting for you.
I will be the dog on Cat.
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. Well, with Dust 2, like the remake on the horizon, undoubtedly it's going to be coming back into the map pool. Is that something that's exciting to you as a caster? Is like, because I know certain casters are like, well, Nuke is probably the one that most probably don't like just because of its verticality. But like, how is casting games on Dust 2? Is that like a favorite of yours, or is there any preference?
It's fine. It's fine because it's really easy to predict. Like you can usually tell the setup a team is doing right away. You could tell what a default is because it's very default oriented around the CT side, which is one of the reasons I didn't like it. The CTs didn't have a lot of options to get aggressive, to get information. I'm ready for it. I actually tweeted out like a week and a half ago saying I'm ready for Dust 2 again because at first I was a little bored of it because I thought the meta had gone stale. Now, admittedly, seeing that they haven't changed as much as I thought they would, maybe I'm not as excited as I originally anticipated I would be.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping when we got it back, it would be so different that it was very obvious a whole different play style would emerge. But I have to say, having not had it for so long now, I am pretty ready to see it again. I like change. I'm an advocate for a 13 map pool played on a seasonal rotation for 7 maps, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you have 13 maps you can choose from at every season, that being major to major, you play different maps. I like creativity. I like seeing different teams have to come up with new ideas. So yeah, I'm excited to have another map come back into the pool, but we'll see if it ends up changing at all.
Is there a map that you would potentially like to see leave the pool, if only for retooling?
Well, like going by the same principle as seeing more maps, I'd like to see none of them leave and have even like a map like Season with a re-changed jail rotation brought back. But at the same time, if you had to take one out right now, if you were to press me for an answer, Cobblestone or Nuke. I think Nuke's kind of creative, but I think people aren't giving it enough of a chance, and I think there's a few things that could still be changed.
For just from an aesthetic point of view, like as a viewer, because that's obviously how I consume most of my Counter-Strike, is just I'd love to see Cash go away. Not because I hate Cash, because it looks like a butt. Like it looks gross.
It looked even worse if you go back to the original Volcano version.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
think
I agree. Cash could be polished.
the weird thing about Cash is I think if you're new to CS:GO and you're like learning
Yeah.
how to just watch games, like you're just watching games,
Yeah.
Cash looks very unremarkable
Yes.
on all areas of the map.
Yes.
And it's like I don't like you could look at Cash as a new player and I feel like you'd be like, I have no idea where on the map this is.
Yeah.
Like there are so many sections of the map that look like, hey, they're in a shed. Wow, they're shooting into
Yeah.
another shed, and so for me, it's like Dust 2. Yeah, it's super iconic, so you can just at a glance, you know, like if you've played CS, you know where they're on the map. Cash, the visual differentiation for me is for a new player, it's weird. I don't know. I don't like Cash. I'm with you, Colin. I don't know. It looks like a butt. That is an accurate description.
I know you mentioned the skybox changes. Is there another change that you would have liked to have seen in Dust 2?
None that I can think of being. The hard part is because it's so iconic, you can't change everything, and otherwise it's a whole new map, and you get too far away from it. I mean, some of the ideas that I was like flirting with in my head were ridiculous. Like the opening. So one of the ones that I came up with actually is you open the market, like I said.
Yeah.
The bottom of B tunnels don't go out into the T side of mid, they go out into the CT side of mid. So CTs could rush right in there and you'd have a battle inside of the market itself potentially for map control. But if you didn't contest it, then the Ts could get mid with 2 entrances to it. That means from mid to cat is completely closed off, but therefore it segregates the 2 sides of the map. So at the top of the mid ramp, below Suicide, you know there's that big wooden door that's just a dead end?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
If you opened that up with a tunnel that cut over to the top of B tunnels, so you have a mid rotation for the T side.
Yeah.
But then it's a whole different map.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
kidding. Holy shit.
It would be way different. That was just one of the ones I was thinking of, like, oh, that would be kind of cool, because then the CTs could push tunnels. You'd get an exchange if they wanted to hold B from a different variety. The Ts could be over there and still fake it because they could rotate back to mid fast enough. But you lose the cat to lower tunnels fight. That's gone. Which with the wider cat, maybe that makes cat more of a. But again, you're taking it and making it a more traditional map in that it's completely separate, and mid is a very clear, distinct 1 point, and A and B are separate. Whereas the cool thing with Dust now is it all kind of works in tandem. But yeah, that was one of the ideas I flirted with.
I know this is like a pretty speculative question, kind of impossible to tell, but do you think, like at present time, if Dust 2 were to enter the active duty roster, let's say tomorrow, would there be one team or another do you think would be particularly suited to being the masters of that map?
Be the same teams as before, likely. I don't think it's
Okay.
going to change that much right away. And everyone's going to go back to the old meta to start and then see how it changes. So I would look at, French teams. Kenny S was always really, really good on it. Smiths used to be even really, really good on it, even though he's in the coaching role now. Mouse Sports might be all right because Chris J really likes the map. Oscar's been really, really sharp. SK had a weird history with it. They were really, really good on it right before they brought in FNX and Taco. Some of their most iconic victories beforehand, like beating Navi at a major in Cluj were on it, and then they got away from it because they lost 0-16 to Fnatic as soon as they made that roster change, and they were just like, let's avoid that. But I don't actually think they were that bad on the map, so they could be decent on it. But yeah, I think it would be the same Astralis, same teams as before. That would be good.
Speaking of changes, guys, we've seen a few significant changes to pistols in the game recently that sort of shifted the meta. The most obvious being like bye Tech9, hello CZ, right? But we've also seen, Dennis was saying to me he wants to see dualies back in the game, and
they almost are.
I'm just gonna say I have seen a few guys bust them out and fucking do work with them.
No, exactly.
Like, can we see more? Like, is dualies real?
I think dualies is pretty funny. I mean, we've seen a few plays with them now, and in the pistol round, they're more viable now. So, I don't know. I mean, I used to think dualies were a hoot. You'd buy them just to mess with people. It's almost like a CZ in that it's not as quick when you hold it down as a CZ, but if you can click fast enough, you've got more ammo, so they're reasonable. I think they're all right. 5.7's good. I've always been a fan of the PC50. I think the pistols have a pretty good spread right now. I still think they're a little bit overpowered on ecos, especially now that aim punch is going to be less. But I think Henry brought up a cool point about the aim punch factor, is that on pistol rounds themselves, you could see teams go to more utility because without the armor, you're not going to be shot sky high, right? So now they can say, well, all right, I could justify getting away without armor. They're only going to have pistols anyway. My aim is not going to be as affected. Let's get more utility and go for more execution-based pistol rounds. So that could be cool.
That is actually a good thought. That would change things a little bit from
like
let's just stack up and fucking rush them.
Yeah,
exactly. Because that's a lot of the pistol rounds. That's what we see. Let's be honest. Yeah. Like every now and then we see one that's really clever and we think, ooh, that's so ingenious. But actually, that's more normal to what pistol rounds used to be. And in CSGO, it's just rush.
You did sort of allude to this just now, but I was going to ask you if you thought the CZ was a little OP, because we keep seeing teams like lose around, force into like mass CZs, and there's just like, oh shit, how did they win that round?
The Tech9 was like that at 1.2. That always happens when there's a change. I think that it sucks as a sidearm still because of the draw speed, but when it's your primary weapon, yeah, they're great. They're really, really strong. I don't know if I'd say they're substantially overpowered. I think there's a lot of pistols that hold the same potential, but I certainly think that there's something to be looked at. I think maybe range could be changed again, the tapping. But that's the thing. It's supposed to be a disciplined gun, like when to tap and when to burst, right? So it's a fine line. I do think probably I would bring down the range a little bit, but that's me. I have some weird opinions sometimes.
There were some nasty CZ rounds actually in that G2 C9 series at E-League Premier. So yeah, there were a couple times where I was like, "How did this happen?" But it's just like CZ things, you know.
We're focusing on it a lot more lately because it's specifically with the CZ, which is a change. But let's be honest. I mean, eco rounds have been way more common in CS:GO than any other version of CS.
Yeah. Totally. Is there any other, you touched on a few, but are there any other like major pistol changes you'd want to see?
No, let's bring the R8 back. Let's go.
Oh, nice.
Let's make the R8 number one. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't. I think maybe
that's gonna be your headline.
It could still be reviewed, but yeah, I don't know. I'd have to really go in and review numbers at this point. I think they've gotten them better than they were, but still not going to be perfect. But nothing ever is. I mean, even if you look at other games, which we sit and look at the neighbor's grass and say that it's greener, but even in Dota and League of Legends, it's a constant circulation of which heroes are better and which heroes are worse because they're always trying to balance one to another, and you'll never get a perfect formula.
Yeah.
Just in general, this may apply to some games more than others, but in general, I'm personally in favor of a bit of a lighter touch from the developer and sort of letting the meta suss itself out, giving it enough time to breathe. You know?
Yep, totally. Yeah, you can't make like it's the same. I'll make a racing analogy, one that actually happened. So in Mont Tremblant, when I was racing, we put new tires on, and I said let's stiffen the front and rear roll bar and go down 2 pounds on pressure, and it ended up the stiffness added way too much to the tires, and if we'd done one change at a time, we could have found a perfect setup, but where we did too much all at once, we never really knew what was the issue out of the 3 that we did, right? Exactly. It's the same with the meta. If they make 3 changes and something's not right, which change was it? So you're right, you have to do one change, let it sit, figure out the data, then make another. So yeah, you have to be patient with it.
That's definitely one thing that annoys me a little bit, not to go off on a tangent with a completely different game, but that gets me a little bit in the current iteration of Street Fighter, where it's just like, well, shit, you know, they would have. You don't have to nerf this guy into oblivion. Like people would have adapted. People would have figured it out. You know, that bothers me a bit.
Yeah.
And I actually think that this is something that games developers more generally are starting to key into.
Yeah.
Like League of Legends, notorious for pushing these huge patches before Worlds that were just change the game.
Yeah.
And so you're going into Worlds and you're like, we have to adapt to this patch. Like we need to learn how to play this patch. And the
But
teams
how
that
stupid is that they do it before
Yeah.
Worlds?
No,
Seriously.
exactly.
So they've changed that now, and this year we had very minimal changes. And in fact, we've seen, I think, some of the best games, maybe not the most competitive games, but some of the most interesting games in Worlds in a little while. So I think the developers are keying into this. That like Valve still does this where they will drop a patch in the middle of a tournament or like right before a tournament.
That's Dota things.
Yeah, but I think this is something that's generally a philosophy that is starting to get out there that, you know, if you change everything all at once right before competition, is it really competition? Or is it just who has adapted faster, who spent more time on the PTR or whatever?
You negate all the hard work that those teams did leading up to learn the previous meta and practice. You've taken practice and you've made it less relevant.
Yeah, pretty much. And even to that same point, like going back to your suggestion of a 13 map pool that changes every season, to the point where it's predictive. Like teams know, like, oh shit, this season's gonna end. Season's gonna be added to the map pool now. We gotta shore up on our season, or make it our new permaban, like making it predictive. But right now,
and then you could also get teams who are like, well, this season's a wash. We're out.
Yeah.
We're not going to make playoffs. Let's just start focusing on the next year's map pools. Like you could do stuff like that to give them a boost. I mean, 13 was an arbitrary number, by the way, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree that if it's predictive, you can at least prepare yourself for it. And that's one of the cool things. Like, I think teams should be rewarded for how quickly they learn as well as how deep they go with something. But like, if you look at teams who struggled forever to learn a map and then suddenly it clicked, 2 years later, that's not going to help you in a rotation pool. Whereas some new teams could get an advantage on some of the older teams who have ironed out the meta forever, and it becomes harder to beat these legendary teams as a newer players. They could go, well, hang on, let's just learn a new map they don't know and try and use that against them. So it's a thought.
We were actually talking about the concept of balance in one of our meetings earlier, and the idea, somebody mentioned that Rocket League as an esport is interesting because, they might make some tweaks, but at the end of the day, it's cars playing soccer. It's flying cars playing soccer.
So ridiculous that it's an esport to me.
I
get it. I think it's hilarious to watch. I think it's great and it's entertaining. That's at the end of the day, that's all it is. But that's all an esport is. But it's like, wow, I did not see that coming.
It kind of begs a question like how they who was like, all right, so flying cars playing soccer. Just hear me out though. Hear me out.
Exactly. Hang on, guys. Hang on. Pass that down. I'll have what you're smoking. All right, let's do this. Here's my idea for a game: flying cars.
But nobody gets shot. You don't buy items. What,
it, bro?
Yo, NBC, have a bit of this. Here, NBC, here you go.
yeah, exactly.
We touched on the America's Minor a little while ago, but I think Dennis, you were speaking to me earlier about the Asia Minor and how it is invite only, like no qualification.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this has happened before, but it's always a controversy where the event that leads into the major is at the whims of the tournament organizer, which is regional based. Like, so for the Asia Minor, it's being hosted by VSL, which is a Korean TO, and lo and behold, one of the invites is MVP PK, which, to be fair, they're actually a pretty decent team, but like, who knows, like
the optics of it aren't great. Have they publicly released, to your knowledge, like a list of criteria for? Okay, well,
definitely not.
Shit, okay.
But I mean, I don't know, a list of criteria publicly, like even Valve's criteria for invites for like Dota have been pretty shaky. Listen, that's not a cure-all. That's step one in my opinion. Okay.
That's basic shit, right?
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
I don't know, Matt. What do you think about an all invite, no qualifier?
I think the minors have to be open qualifier. That's kind of the essence of them, is that they were designed to be a system, a stepping stone for new teams to jump straight into the limelight, as opposed to going through essentially what now is for Pro League a ladder system where you go through open, main, premier, and then maybe get there. Same with Face It, you got to go through a lot of brackets and hoops. At the same time, I understand that the Asian one is the least, I guess I could say talent heavy. It's got the least amount of depth to it. There's the least amount of teams playing because of the nature, as we know, of CSGO finally being released just now. It wasn't around forever. So I think it's understandable that region goes with something along those lines, because there's really only 4 teams that I really put in the mix for it. But the Australian teams should be upset by that. Chiefs, who had a reasonable showing at IEM Sydney. Yeah. I think in the future, however, now that Perfect World is there, and in China is a CS market now, which is fantastic, and I think could boost the game to the next level. That minor has to be open qualifier moving forward. It absolutely has to be. I think, okay, great, you're a little early on the China thing now. You can get away with it this time maybe, but for moving forward, that can't happen again. That has to be open.
For sure.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, pivoting once again, going back in time for a few weeks, we have reported a lot over the last little while about what's been happening inside the Immortals roster. And it's kind of all, oh yeah, we hear Matt go, oh boy. It's the roster moves are out there. It's happened, no Instant put out a video release, blah, blah, blah. We kind of know. But one thing that we never really got, to my knowledge anyway, is like someone who was actually there telling us like what they saw. So since you were at Montreal, Matt, I was wondering if you could give your perspective on the genesis of this whole roster implosion.
Sure. I think the roster implosion is a difference of personality between the 5 players. Obviously, Bolts and Steel are very different than the other 3 by nature, and that goes to the extent of saying they don't party as much. They don't. They're more keep to themselves, very quiet, but very more gentlemanly and very, very nice. I get along great with Steel. Bolts I don't speak to as much. He doesn't speak as much English. But the other 3 are a lot different, and I think that possibly it's not hard to fathom that, on that roster, those 3 had difference of opinions a lot than the other 2. As for what happened in Montreal, I don't know all of the facts, because I know what I saw and I believe what I heard. I will say that, but I can't say, prove it or I'll kill you. I can't prove it. I wasn't at the bar with them the night before. I didn't physically see them at the bar. Now I heard from a lot of different people a very consistent story, so that tells me that they probably were out. Now I also heard that they weren't at a bar. The consistent story I heard, but they were up all night and they were socializing, shall we say, within the hotel, and probably were out before that. I don't know. But the point is, they were absolutely late for a game. In the morning, to the point where I think one of the players was under the weather, shall we say, perhaps self-induced. And someone even told me that the coach had to do the knife round for that reason. They were late. They were warned at the time. They left. They went back to sleep. That's fine. But Steel and Bolts were downstairs. They have a responsibility. Steel and Bolts couldn't even get a hold of them. Steel went sprinting out of the venue to get up there and get them out of bed. Now, the accelerated schedule thing, bullshit. That happens at every event. Teams are told when the second semifinal is over, you start the clock instantly. That's how long you have. You have 90 minutes to your game. You are to be there an hour before your game in most cases. It's different per event. I think this one, maybe Ryu said it was 90 minutes. I can't remember. But point is, you have lots of opportunity to get there. We went live for our segment before the finals. I'm sitting on the desk with Scrawny. He's looking forward to doing a good final. We got North, we got Immortals. Both teams are looking good. One's fresh off a major final. One is on the rise, as we know, and had been dominant in that event. And we get an hour ear. The desk is live. Yeah, we're waiting for Immortals. And I did notice that I was talking to Steel, and I was out. Bud Light tent was next to us. I was out socializing there, just talking to some friends. Matt from Monster was there, and a couple other people. I think Navneet with you guys.
Hey,
theScore was there.
shout out to Nav.
She was there. Shout out to Nav.
She'll never get on the podcast, though. Sorry.
It's fine. But we were all just kind of hanging out, and there was a few different people, and I was just kind of going group to group while I was waiting. And I remember looking at the stage at one point and noticing North all sitting there warming up, and no one from Immortals was even on the stage. Not a manager, not a player, no one. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Maybe they're warming up out back. But I was like, that doesn't make sense because they're going to have to swap the hard drives, so they might as well just do it on the stage. Anyway, I didn't think much of it. I thought, okay, whatever, they're probably here. They're just doing their thing. And then when I went on the desk, they were like, yeah, we're waiting for them. And I was like, oh, so they weren't here. And originally they said if they're not here in 15 minutes, they lose all their timeouts. Fair play. That's totally fair.
Okay.
the 15 minutes went by. The desk is still going. And then they decide, okay, well, those 15 minutes are gone. They still weren't there, and they said, that's it. You lose map 1. And I think it's really good that DreamHack upheld that because there was 3 issues in a day. 3 strikes, you're out. Okay, it ruined the finals. It made Immortals look bad. North did not want to win that way at all. They wanted to earn it. They even said, I think, at one point that they didn't want them to lose the map. They told DreamHack not to do that, but DreamHack was in a tight position. I know of teams being late in the past that have gotten away with it. I've even gone as far as to call a few of them out on social media and taken the brunt of their fans for it. But it's something that is unacceptable, especially at a LAN. So. Yeah, I think that the implosion started there. There was definitely a difference of opinion between the players. And it's not as well known, but before the major final, they were also out drinking the night before there, too. Their first ever major, and they're in the finals, and a couple of their players were out drinking, and there was some controversy that night about it as well. And now I get it. Some players, that's just them. That's their ritual. And I will say names because I think everyone knows at this point, if Lucas and Henny want to go out drinking because they feel like they can sleep in and it calms them down or, puts them in a looser, I guess, less stressful environment, then so be it. But you still have a responsibility. You still have to be in control of that. And I'll even say this: I've gone out drinking before I've casted. It's not something I used to do at the start of my career, but now sometimes I'll just say, whatever, let's go. It's not a big deal. But every time I do it, hungover or not, early game, late game, I'm always on time for my cast, and I will always cast my absolute lungs out. And I do not let it affect my work. And I go out the night before with the knowledge in my mind that I'm doing so, accepting the responsibility that I have to do a job tomorrow. So it's not an excuse that they were out partying, or there's no reasonable excuse for them being late for those games, in my opinion.
For sure.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear your perspective on that, especially regarding the DreamHack decision, because I agree. I think that it was very important for them to put their foot down.
Yeah.
And I know. Speaking of Nav, what she spoke to Cajun B after the. I think it was Cajun B, right?
It was
after the
right.
finals, on behalf of the Score eSports, and he echoed the comments about I didn't want to win that way.
Yeah.
That sucked.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is, if you're the organizer, you have to, in my opinion, you have to throw the book at the team, because the guys on the other team, the ones who are affected by the delay, who are there on time, they're ready to play. Almost 9 times out of 10, they're gonna be don't punish them, because they don't want to look. You don't want to look like a jerk. You don't want to look like the guy who's we'll take our game. What's up?
Exactly.
You don't want to do that, and you probably have respect for the players on the other team, at least as competitors.
Yeah.
And you want to win the right way. But in my opinion, and I think this happened. I'm trying to remember the event. It might have been the whole Northern Arena controversy. You can't let the teams make that decision. The organizer, the organizer has to just say, "This is the penalty. You guys didn't do it. You guys did not hold up your end.
Yep.
This is the penalty." And I don't care what North says. I don't care if they want to let you just play normally. That shouldn't enter into it, in my opinion. So big kudos to DreamHack, in my opinion, because it's too easy to hey, what do you guys think? Are they going to be yeah, screw them? No.
And I totally get North sentiment, and I think that they totally understand that too. I think the bigger issue is that they just made a roster change. They done well at Malmo, and this event for them was their time to prove themselves okay, this is a winning roster, and they'd done so well throughout the whole event, and then it was just an anticlimactic ending. It was oh, okay, well, apparently we don't have to work for it. Now we'll never know if we would have won that legitimately, which I think they would have. I'm going to say it, I think they still would have 2-0'd that final, just the form that they were on that event.
I think so.
But I get it. It sucks. If I was in their position, I would think the same thing. It's oh, great, now we don't get to win our event. Are we going to win another one soon? We can't say we earned this. It kind of puts a bit of a damper on it.
It's shitty for everyone involved, and also the fans. I think I remember you, Matt, saying something along the lines of, hey, this sucks because Immortals, missed out on one of the best crowds around Montreal, and everyone cheered.
Yeah. I think that was Scrawny that said that.
My bad.
Yeah.
Shout
Pandering
outs
to his
Scrawny.
hometown, I get it.
Hey, man, it's what you got to do. Now, Immortals, after that happened. Actually, not after that happened. In the coming days and the ensuing conflicts and statements and tweets, I was just like, oh well, Rip Immortals came second at a major, and now you're over. But they've already started building the pieces back together. I think they have 2 signings, Dennis, already.
They have Horvey and Destiny, and then the 5th is unknown.
Oh, is ZK? I don't know.
ZQK could be a possibility,
ZQK,
but I don't. Sorry, go ahead.
No, not at all, Matt. Go ahead. I just didn't know how to pronounce his name.
Well, Zacucula is apparently, or something along those lines.
Seriously?
But don't try it, because every Portuguese fan on Twitter will slam you for it. I've gone through that. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say ZQK was in the mix. He's played with Bolts and Steel, obviously, along with Fallen and Fur when it was Kaboom.
Yeah.
He was the first of the roster changes in the Kaboom/Geet Stars era. But I think his skill has dropped off, or at least he hasn't done as well. He was an AWP player at that time. I think still is, but maybe partially rifling. I'm not sure. The bigger issue is that, Immortals will continue on. That's great. And good luck to Bolts and Steel. They deserve it. It's bad luck. It's really terrible for them, but they'll lose the major spot by losing the 3.
Yeah.
And if they go join FNX, that's the major team.
Yep.
And that could be, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but they could get that spot.
Yeah, there's a huge question mark actually regarding the major spot. So currently how it stands is Immortals still retain their major spot as it is, because Hen1 and Lucas1 are still on the roster but on the bench, but they also simultaneously hold a slot into the minor qualifier for the Americas minor. So there's that whole situation. But my question is actually, if somehow some organization buys out Hen1 and Lucas1 from their huge contract, assumedly huge contract from Immortals, and they also acquire KNG, does that also, by the rules of the major, give them that slot?
They get the spot.
Such a
so the issue
situation.
is as well with the minors being introduced so quickly is that if Noah is a smart businessman, which it seems he is, I would jack the price up on that buyout.
Yeah.
Because then no one can get them in time. Basically, they keep the spot. The controversy then is that if they lose that spot after the minor already goes by, what happens to Immortals then? They've missed the minor, but technically the rosters should be closed at that point for the major purposes if they play games. There's a very big gray period. My hope would be if that happens that they would just get a direct invite to the qualifier anyway, and Valve would kind of say, okay, unusual circumstances, come to the qualifier and we'll see how you do. But by the rules, it follows the players for majors, not the orgs.
Yeah.
So if KNG, Lucas, and Henrique and joined FNX, then that whoever their 5th would be, that team would have technically the major spot.
But do we know when these contracts expire? Like, is there a chance that it changes hand? Like, I thought this is like, I can't 100% confirm this, but I thought I read that their contracts expired before.
I thought I read that too, and I wasn't sure about bringing it up because honestly, I can't verify it. I just skimmed it.
But again, it wouldn't matter if the contracts expire, because that's only in allegiance to Immortals. It matters what happens to the roster as a 5-man unit.
Right.
So they picture for the sake of the majors, and I agree that could create controversy, because if the contracts expire, well then no one has to buy them out. So then it could change.
Right.
I get what you're saying, but keep in mind that it's the same. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, and the fact that it only matters what those 5 players as a separate entity from Immortals do. So the buyout protects Immortals in that sense to keep the spot. But if someone bought them out, or if the contract's expired, or the other guys are leaving anyway, it's still going to be the same result in the end, and it's going to be equally as awkward. The bigger issue to me is that the minor is so close that they would miss the minor, lose the spot, and then potentially, by the rules, not even have a chance to qualify for the major.
Yeah.
Is there any, I don't know, is there any support around this table to do something to make sure that Immortals has that opportunity? Like, to say, like, yeah, technically the spot goes with the players, but you guys, like, evidently Bolts and Steel were adversely affected by other people's actions that maybe, like, do you guys think that anything should be done if that were to happen? Like, should they be granted some kind of dispensation, or?
Well, that's kind of where I touched on it and said I think that at the very least, I don't think they should get invited to a major spot.
Right.
If they did, I wouldn't complain. I'd be like, okay, I get it. It's really shitty luck for them. Let's feel bad. I think at the very least they have to go get a direct invite to the qualifier. If you were to ask me, if that happened after such time, especially on the short notice the minors were announced, excuse me, I think at very least, in fairness to Immortals, given the situation, I think that they should be given a spot in the qualifier.
Dennis?
I mean, special dispensations have been made already for Immortals, not in the major circuit, but with WISA giving them, I think,
Oh yeah, so
Oh, they
an
got
extension
a
for the
grace
roster
period
lock.
for their roster changes. Yeah.
But as far as like with the major circuit, I don't know. I'm hesitant to do anything in that.
Because the precedent it
The
sets?
precedent is not good, I think. Yeah.
But also, this is kind of outside of the point, but I also believe that Immortals have their 5-man already. But the way that they're doling it out is, and to be fair to them, it's a marketing thing. They released Horvey last week. They released Destiny this week.
Okay.
They're gonna be releasing their 5th before the start of the minor because
In
they
which
already
case,
have
then
it.
they should go to the minor. If
Exactly.
that's set in stone, then they should go to the minor.
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting theory. We'll find out soon if it's true.
Yeah.
I think at the very least we're all in agreement that there
It's
should
a shitty situation.
it's a shit situation, and we kind of hope
Yeah.
that they get a shot. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they should get a shot to compete, in my opinion. But the actual method that they get to do that, I don't know what it's going to be. But I think honestly, them going to the minor and earning it through the minor is the best possible way.
Yeah.
Because that way, it's like this happened in a legit way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I was just wondering if anybody was for like a maybe further intervention. But
no,
like,
I think you're right in saying that if their roster is ready for the minor, they should go to the minor.
Yeah.
My point was that if, due to the conflicting time schedule, if they couldn't get everything aligned for the minor, they shouldn't just simply lose out on a chance at the major, which is why I would grant them dispensation to go to a qualifier. I would not give them the major spot, but I should hope that just based on the scheduling that they could get some chance. But if it's ready for the minor, go to the minor. That's the way the rules are stated. So
Yeah. Going back to the situation with Henwan and Lucas and KNG, this is kind of a theoretical situation, but is there an org that would reasonably see that major slot as an opportunity? Like, realistically, like, could someone buy that slot?
you can't buy the slot.
Well, sorry, not the slot, but
you
like
could buy the buy the
memes,
players.
the
I mean,
memes.
it's similar to what happened with Envy and G2 in the last major. In that Envy was given an extra spot at the minor. There was an extra qualification spot at the minor because G2 and Envy made a roster change that changed the way that the system worked and didn't keep their spot, etc. So it has been done in the fact that a legend spot has been lost. And all they did is just adjust the qualifying process accordingly because more teams were going to make it out from the qualifier.
I'll tell you what. In terms of storylines, I wouldn't mind it. They'd be a black sheep of a team.
There's absolutely the fans would be all against everything. They would be a nemesis to everyone, to the fans especially. And I think that if someone out there has some coin, do the math, figure out what you're going to make in stickers. Maybe no one buys your stickers. Maybe everyone buys your stickers because of that storyline.
Yeah.
I would put it in the contract to say if I was the org, I'd say sticker money I get 60 or 70% because I'm giving you the opportunity to play in a major again. And I would even say that, or I would say the sticker money goes to the buyout price and do the math for exposure and maybe even just do a 6-month contract and buy them out and see what you can get on turnaround. If there's a businessman out there who can find a way to make that work that's smarter than me, then yeah, there is a chance someone buys them out for that reason.
That'd be actually super interesting.
Yeah.
man, if I was a member of the elite crew, I'd 100% want a Lucas
God
sticker
damn.
on my off. Because then when I off someone, they'll be like, "Oh, so you're one of those guys, huh?" Oh, yeah.
I mean, the other thing is too, as an option, is the players themselves. How much is the buyout? Can they afford their own buyout, and would they make enough back on stickers?
Oh shit. Yeah.
That is really interesting.
Could they buy themselves out and say, hey, I'm buying myself out for 200,000 and I'm going to make back on stickers, let's say, what would they make back? Typically it's gone down a bit, so they probably make 20 to 30 grand each if things go well. So obviously you're losing money there, but do we have a chance to win? Do we have a chance to get any prize money back? And then you're free of your contract anyway, and you've negated some of the total costs.
Guys, this is some WWE shit. Like,
Maybe we should do it.
Oh my god. We always get like the memes hating on us, so yeah, no, let's do it.
this is some Vince McMahon shit.
They're like a dark Astralis, like they just free themselves. from
Dark
their con-
Astralis sounds like an RPG from like the 1980s.
It does. But that would be awesome if they were like they knew what their role in the greater drama was and they like fully embraced
the
it.
dark side.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
yeah.
I would do, man. I'd make myself a heel. Holy shit, I'd be flipping off the camera.
Although as we say this though, I mean, they had a lot of fans backing them up. Like a lot of people were hating on
I think
Immortals.
the- yeah.
during
Well,
this
that's
whole
the
thing.
Brazilian fan crew.
For sure.
I mean, I guess it's just.
And do you think that over time maybe that's softened? Because initially, I
Yeah.
mean, who the hell who wasn't there knows
did
what to
soften.
believe,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
People are making accusations. People are in tough spots, but at this point in time, it seems relatively cut and dry.
Yeah.
What happened? So
Do you want to know? Do you want to know the best way to make money back on stickers?
please?
Buy themselves out and call the team H2O, because clearly, as Yanko said, they do not drink enough water.
Oh my god.
Everyone in the world would be
my
like,
God.
Jesus Christ, I need that meme on my gun. And get this H2O team logo with one of their names under it, like H2O Henny, H2O Lucas,
This is
H2O KNG. It would be, dude, I'd even buy those stickers, and I don't buy stickers.
Yeah, for sure.
I do
The
buy
marketing
stickers, but-
opportunities here are lucrative. I'm getting convinced the more we talk about this.
Yeah, there's so many good. Yeah, like here, but should have switched to water. H2O. Henny, you know, like, it would've been- it
I
should've
mean,
been
his
good.
name is Henny. Shit, like his name
Yeah.
is alcohol. You
Yeah.
know,
Like-
yeah.
Oh, is that what that's supposed? That's not what that's supposed to be.
I don't
though.
We
know.
can make it up. We could go with it.
Exactly. Exactly.
We can make a play there. We
right.
could like even have a tagline like "What happens in Montreal ends up on Reddit."
Oh my god.
This is unreal. Like I actually am just checking my bank account to see if I have enough money to buy people out.
Pool our savings, man.
Jesus Christ.
Get that Hennessy sponsorship deal going on.
Well, we're from Toronto, so we got to get Ciroc, right?
Oh, okay.
'Cause
Maybe
they're-
Drake can get in on this.
Oh shit!
There's your team owner. You got Steve Aoki with Rogue. You got what's his face there, the big basketball player that sucks at acting, Shaq.
Shaq.
RG.
Hey.
We got Drake owning the H2O.
How fucking
You take
awesome
that
would
back,
that
though.
be?
Yo, I love this. The swag opportunities. as
Kazam
well.
was great.
Okay, okay
Kazam-
Josh.
No,
Uh,
anyways,
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was bad.
I went for it.
You killed it, man. You killed
tried.
it.
You tried.
So, Matt, just apropos of nothing, reassure me that you and Henry G are hunky dory, because the last time we had a CS:GO caster on this show,
Yeah.
he dropped a bomb on us, and that one of the
That's
greatest.
my show. His show is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, free marketing, hey.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But now, as like one of the most iconic duos is no longer, and I reckon you and Henry are definitely top of the heap right now.
I'll drop a bomb. We're together. We are not together like that.
No, that would be a bomb if we were together.
We are still a duo, very much a duo. We did do some events apart just recently because I had a lot going on in the start of the Pro League season. I had a wedding, and then I had Montreal, and then I had New York, and it wouldn't have made sense. Basically, they would end up paying for like 6 overseas flights to get 5 days of casting out of me. So that's why I joined Pro League late. But I will say, after the major, I very nearly quit altogether.
Holy shit.
I even had to sit down with Henry in my hotel room and just said, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was just really burnt out at that point, really frustrated. We were arguing with each other internally, and I had some sim racing opportunities, which I did do a few of them just to try them, lined up. And at that point, I was just really overtired, admittedly, and I kind of just said, I am on the road so much, maybe I want to take 6 months off and figure out what regular life is like again. And then obviously, and I even said to the point of Mark Winther, who books for Malmo, and to Joe Miller, who books for, obviously Joe Miller, former caster, who books for ESL, I said, don't talk to me for 2 weeks, take me off the calendar for everything, and check with me before you finalize plans. And then in 2 weeks, I was ready to go again, and when they messaged me, I said, yeah, all right, I'll do it. And Henry was very patient. He was a little, I think, worried that I was going to walk away, but yeah, stuck with it, and glad that I did. I think just adjusting my attitude and being more relaxed has definitely helped. But yeah, I was pretty, and to be fair, it was almost a bit of a diva moment where I was really frustrated and just said, fuck it, like I'm done. But yeah, there you go. There's your bomb. That almost happened.
That's crazy.
That is a bomb. What was the root cause that had you reconsidering things?
I think it was just patience. I had to just go home and relax and really think about it,
Okay.
and consider sort of where I would go without it. And basically, part of that, I think, saying that I was done was to see if I have a reaction to my own opinion. Basically, like if I said I'm done and then I went home as if I was done.
Gotcha.
Did I think that I could do it? And I think that I probably could, but it would be interesting. It'd be a grind to go back to the whole photography thing or whatever I chose to do. But But yeah, I mean, I had to think about it at least, because I basically was getting so caught up in the casting that it was all I was doing and it was all I was becoming, and I didn't love that, and I was getting a little bit too intense with it, I think, in terms of the back end stuff, the political implications, because it is kind of political in the back end sometimes. So how serious to quitting I was, I don't know. It definitely was a thought on my mind. But yeah, obviously some time off, and I reconsidered, and Henry and I had some conversations about how to handle some things internally, and yeah, stuck with it. So we are definitely a duo, but yeah, that almost happened.
Jesus.
Ooh, thank God.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to like not pry, but like I kind of get the sense that like maybe part of that is maybe you being in the limelight, you being kind of exposed to all the like the community, both the community as in the fans, the players, but also from the casters themselves, like that interaction and just kind of being on all the time. Like is it kind of that? Like is that what's been pressuring you?
Yeah, I think so. I tweeted out, and it was kind of a very subtle tweet, because we got the major final, and that was sort of the last goal on my list. Like when I started at first, I said, okay, I want to do a big LAN, international LAN. Then I said I want to cast in Europe. Then I said I want to cast a major, and then the last goal was I want to cast a major final. So we finally got that, which was awesome. But I'd put everything into that, and I grinded so hard. I put up a link in a tweet very subtly with the dates from the X Games, which was my first international event, to the major final, which was January, I think 25th, 2015 to July 30 or July 25th. It was almost. I think it was exactly. Yeah, it was exactly like 25 or 24 months to the day. I don't know. Do the math. I think it was 24 months to the day. Or 20. Sorry, a year and a half. So whatever that is, 20. Whatever the math is there, you do it, not me. 32 months, I think. Okay. And it was basically a tweet with a hey my, because better to burn out to fade away, and a link to a video called, what's it called? It was a Trop Fest winner, and it was called Shock. It's called Shock. You can just look up Shock Trop Fest on YouTube. Okay. And it's about a radio announcer in Australia who, Kyle Sandelis, I think his name was, who grinded it out and was in a bunch of controversy, and everyone hated him, but he had to continue to be happy on the air, and it shows him going on air and being like super hype, but the whole time he's like crying off air and he's like super depressed.
Jesus.
And it was kind of an allusion to sort of like getting into the point of like where I was grinding so much that I felt like I wasn't myself anymore. And it was a really, really subtle tweet. And that was kind of like, I guess, encapsulating, not to that extent, but kind of like where my mentality was. And I think part of that was really emphasized by when the car was stolen. I had to go on broadcast every day and be like, hey, what's up, everybody? Meanwhile, I was like, fuck everyone, fuck the world. Like, I want my car back.
Yeah.
Which is an inanimate object at the end of the day, but it was something I put a lot into.
Hell yeah.
So that kind of, I think just that whole month of July was really tough. And I hadn't gone home until after the major. So once I was home and able to relax, it brought back to reality. But yeah, for a bit, I was pretty stressed, I think.
That's crazy. Yeah.
The more that we talk to people who broadcast professionals, in not just CS:GO but other esports as well, the more I hear stories that are similar to this. Like, Matt, do you think this is a widespread problem? I know you can probably speak mostly to the CS:GO community.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that get burnt out from time to time, and it comes in circles. I just tend to be much like when I'm casting and I'm loosey-goosey or I'm very extreme in my emotions. I'm the same way off air, and that goes both ways. Not just the upside, but also the downside. I get I'm very self-critical, and I can be very, very hard on myself at times. And I think that, like, to put it this way, obviously, look, I'm not Brad Pitt. I'm not someone like that. But I fully understand, like, even the Robin Williams thing, I can understand it from a different perspective because I've seen, 1% of it. And I can kind of understand, if you took my situation that I just went through and which was a lot of self and my own fault. I don't know, not self-indulging, but
self-inflicted.
Yeah, self-inflicted, I think, in the fact that just my mentality was the way it was. But if you took that and you put Brad Pitt, who goes out in public and everywhere he goes, people know him. If you were Robin Williams and you were forced to be happy on camera all the time and could never show a sign of vulnerability, which I think now, more than we know about him, if you look back at some of his films, Dead Poet Society, Mrs. Doubtfire, even to an extent, Good Will Hunting, we actually see snippets of the real Robin Williams, but then we took it as acting and thought, oh, no, that's not really him, right?
Yeah.
But if you took all that and you emphasized it from where I am and took that 100 times more to their extent, I get why celebrities like lock themselves in. I get why they kind of go insane. Like I could see it. I can actually think that like, yeah, I get the burnout issue totally to a better degree now.
For sure.
Is it? Dennis kind of touched on this too, but is it like? So is it working so much, or is it also, like you said, being in the limelight all the time? Because sometimes I think like, man, like these guys are always on Twitter. They always have to, be like creating content and responding to people. And it's just like, shit, maybe you just leave that.
Yeah.
Well, that's I think the change. I think we pressure ourselves into believing that's what we have to do. Which is why, and although lately I think I've gone kind of too far with it, but like that's why I've been tweeting about racing so much more. I've been focusing on the racing. I've been trying to put my mind in other places. We don't have to do all that content. We don't have to tweet. We choose to do that, but then because we do that, we believe we have to.
Yeah.
That's not true. We can step back. We don't have to do every event. Although if we didn't, other people would eventually step in. And I think now that I've realized that and decided to give that a go, I'm more relaxed. But I think that is part of it. You feel pressured to be, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, I'm in the limelight. Oh yeah, everyone's looking at me. Like, come on, like, it is. Yeah, I have 100,000 followers on Twitter, but that's, again, I'm not Brad Pitt. There's guys that have it way worse than I do in the world. Cristiano Ronaldo, Fernando Alonso, all those guys. Like my situation's not that bad really.
Yeah.
But it's how you perceive it. And I think the biggest thing that we have to realize is that we don't have any pressure on us to do all this. We don't have to do all that. We choose to do it. So now I'm kind of taking the opposite approach. I'm choosing to step back. That's why I've kind of gone hard on the racing thing, just to see, what the response is, to see how I enjoy it. And that's also why we haven't brought back Drop the Bomb for season 2. It's just a lot of work.
Actually,
and we want to do it, and we want to do it correctly. But what's the point in grinding it and then feeling like we're trapped by it, which I think at the end of season 1 we kind of did, because it was just so overwhelming, the amount of work we had to do in the back end for it. So I think that's kind of the change in mentality we have to take.
Yeah. Well, on that same token, you're also at the top of your game, I feel like, as far as casting. There's maybe there were three duos that were at the very top. You and Henry, Anders and Semler, but that's no longer. And now Bardolph and DDK. But at that same token, from the players' side, G2 in particular have been attending a lot less events, at least in recent time, than the other teams. Like I think they were only at Malmo, and then I think they failed to qualify for another thing. But there's a very, very specific...
New York was the other one, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you. Do you have that same option? Do you have the same option of being like, I'm going to cast this event, I'm going to cast... Like, could you only do the majors? Is that something that's viable
I don't
for
think
you?
that's I guess that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Could we only do the majors? Maybe. As long as we did something else to stay relevant, to stay on people's mind. But that's also unfair to those that are working hard, because one of the reasons I made it to where I am is kind of what Thorin said when I did an interview with him is, I knew that I couldn't necessarily be better than anyone, but I could outwork everyone, which is what I did. And I think there is an important, you have to pay your dues to get the majors. The majors are a pat on the back for all your hard work to say, hey, you are at the top of your game. Now, maybe you're right. Maybe skill should speak and prevail. The majors should just be the best no matter what. But I think you're not wrong in saying that, we grind it out so hard and we feel like we have to be pushing all the time to get to those. And I also think that what you're saying about picking and choosing more events, but also me being at the top of my game, there's a fine line there. I don't think I should be taking time off while I'm at the top of my game, because who knows where I'm going to be in 5 years. Maybe I should be grinding it out while I'm at the top of my game because I can get more work right now. But at the same time, if you grind too hard, you get burnt out, you're going to fall off that pedestal. I remember after New York last year, I remember saying like that was the best event we've ever done. We were super hyped. And part of that was because the games we got were awesome. But the next like 3 or 4 events, I felt like, do I have to be that hype all the time? It felt weird to step back and go back into a more relaxed casting role, because then I was like, well, now people expect that of me. Like I have to do that, right? And it's about understanding expectations and then how you apply them to yourself. So it is a fine line, being at the top of my game and constantly working, or doing less and being able to maintain that level of enthusiasm and passion for a longer period of time. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what I'm flirting with right now, and taking events off here and there and seeing what I can get away with.
Everything in esports, career-wise, players and even casters, seems so much shorter than in, say, traditional sports. And there's something romantic in traditional sports, I think, about having a longtime broadcaster, the voice of X teams. You know, you could think of probably 5 or 6 off the top of your heads. All your favorite teams have voices attached to them, right? Yeah. And I would just love for that to be the case in CSGO. I think it is. I think there are. I'm not saying there aren't legendary voices right now, but for them, I would like it to be, 5 years from now to hear a Sadokist and Henry G, and it'd be like, oh shit, they're casting a major. Like, remember when they did this 5 years ago? That was the sickest. That was the best. These guys are the voice of the major. Something like that. So sorry, go on.
Well, sorry, I was gonna say I think Anders and Semler were getting to that.
Yeah.
And I think that part of it is that maybe they burnt themselves out as well, and that's why they split up. I don't know all the internal stuff there, so it's not really my place to say.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying about longevity, and I completely agree. You're right in saying that we all have voices like that. Murray Walker, for me, is the best commentator of all time because in Formula One, he was the voice of Formula One. And I think that part of the reason we don't have that longevity in esports is because esports itself hasn't had that longevity yet. Yeah. More so because titles are constantly switching, and we don't really know the life expectancy of a particular game. Obviously, interestingly enough, the big 3 esports are the ones that have been around the longest. So maybe that says something about developed audience and developed meta and storylines. It's kind of cool in CS that we have storylines we can even tap into. In Overwatch, they don't really have that yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think you're right. And in truth, I would love to see my career in commentary go 20 years with Counter-Strike or with esports in general at the very least. But it's a matter of the unknown. We are still very much in the pioneer phase of esports.
It's exciting, though.
Well said.
I like that.
I love coming to work every day because you never know what's going to happen, and you're part of it. You're part of it in a small way, even. So, but yeah,
the grass is always greener, but it's pretty green in esports, at least from my perspective.
Oh, it's very green. Yeah. I mean, I can just from some of the internal stuff I've done from looking around at TV and stuff and whatnot. Okay, yeah, they've got longevity and they've got lucrative TV deals. But our numbers are going up and up and up. And I know everyone I talk to look, I have companies reach out to me because they're desperate to find someone in esports who can hook them up with so-and-so or, give us an in. I mean, I went to a race in Quebec, and when I was there just talking in the paddock to some of the pro teams that were there and stuff, all their sponsors were like, oh, you do this? Okay, we got to talk. Now I have emails from people I met at a racetrack who were like, esports, right? Like, they're like, oh, you're in esports? We've been looking for a way in. Like, everyone wants in right now. So it's exciting.
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely. I hear that someone coming from traditional newspaper media to this, it's like, holy shit, this is alive, it's growing, it's exciting, it's fun. And as you said, Matt, the future is unknown, which is really exciting. That seems like a really nice philosophical wrap up.
Well, Is there anything else that you want to mention, Matt? Anything that you're working on that you want to talk about?
Yeah, please.
No, not really. I mean, now that the racing season is done, I'll switch my Twitter header and my picture and go back to being a caster. Get hard to work, get ready to grind it out. Obviously finish up Pro League, and then we got Epicenter coming up, and then maybe Toronto, maybe China. I don't know.
We'll see.
See what happens with the visa thing and all that. But no, I'm excited. I mean, nothing really in particular coming up that's of note. But back to the grind, and I think I'm going to sit back and be as much of a fan as I am a commentator from now on. Maybe sit in some audiences and enjoy it. I mean, I like watching the development of FaZe, and I'm just going to sit back and have fun.
Nice. Well, that's really good to hear, and I'm sure that bodes well for your longevity in the scene as well.
Yeah, I think this was a milestone moment for you, Sado.
Yeah. Why? Because I finished all of this?
No, not this. I mean, like you've come to that moment where like you're at a fork in your life.
I thought you meant this podcast.
No, not this podcast. Give a shit about this.
Self-indulging, are we?
No.
That's what you say off air, Dennis.
No, I think it was to some extent. Yeah, I think I had to go through that to really just step back and have fun with it. And I think Henry was aware of it and receptive of it. It was a shame it went to the level of it that it did. That I was very argumentative with a few people and colleagues at times. I won't go into all the details because that's our private stuff, but that it had to hit that level for me to realize, and that's unfortunately just part of my personality trait. I'm an extremist in that sense, and until I go off the rails, I don't know where the rails are going. So I think you're right. It was a milestone, but it took a while to get there.
Okay. Well, as I say, I think everyone in this room is glad to hear that the Rails are still going strong. And please say hello to Henry G for us. We'd actually love to have him on the podcast. Just saying. So, if he ever wants to talk.
One of the things with Henry is that for like the first year, he didn't do any interviews because a couple things. I won't go into it, but there was a couple reasons he didn't, and he doesn't like to. And I think he's realized he kind of has to. So yeah, I'll poke him and see what he says, but no promises.
No worries, man. I'll hold that candle for a while yet. Don't worry. Matt, thank you so much for making time. We really appreciate it because we know you're home chilling right now. So once again, thanks so much for appearing on the Score eSports podcast.
Thank you, Matt.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Wow, that was quite the discussion. I didn't expect we keep getting these random bombs.
Yeah.
It's
could have gone on too. I mean, obviously we have to go back to our desks, I guess, at some point. Do some more stuff.
No.
I mean, this is work, but
I mean, you're the boss, so maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe we.
No,
don't.
I say we stay in this room. No, I really enjoyed his. I really like talking to Sado. I enjoyed the first time we talked to him when the podcast thing was kind of new, and I really enjoyed this time, particularly his thoughts on Dust 2. Obviously, it was quite interesting to hear his revelations about decisions he had come to, and I'm really glad that this time around we didn't get a hey we're no longer casting together, because I'm a fan. I'm not okay, he's off, we're not talking to him on Skype now, so I'm not sucking up now, but I actually fucking love Sado and Henry G. I think they're the best casting duo. I think they're like peanut butter and jelly in that they're quite different and they go together so well. They're like Lego blocks,
No, for sure. And the other thing with that too is imagine if they did break up, it would have been only, basically only DDK and Bardolph. And no hate to like Pansy or any of the others, but there's not that iconic.
And I don't even. This is like semantics. It's like nothing. But I don't even know if DDK and Bardolph, if I could put them on that same level. To be completely frank with you, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not. There's not skill wise.
Yeah.
I just mean impact wise, notoriety wise.
Right.
I don't know. To me, it was Anders and Semler and Henry and Sado.
There aren't now though.
Well, it was though, right? So,
okay.
And now there's one king of the castle, and I just really would rather they not break up because I truly enjoy their commentary.
I mean, we keep coming back to the story with a lot of the people that we've interviewed in esports, especially on the commentary side, on the even on the analyst side. That it's it is a grind, and these people got there like Matt said because they're willing to go as hard as possible to get what they want, and sometimes you can't just turn that off. I know a lot of people like that. You can't just be like, oh well, I'm here now, so I guess. Whatever.
No, momentum is a powerful thing. And he said something interesting. He said, almost as an afterthought, he was like, yeah, and I suppose if you do stop doing events, someone else is going to take your place. I don't know. I think, Dennis, you might have been on this podcast with me. I don't know if you remember the very first podcast I did with Semler quite a few months ago. Yeah. He said almost the exact same thing about guys of Sado's era. He said, I bet you they think that someone's coming up behind them, and if they stop or slow down, someone will take their place. And that's exactly what Sadokist just said.
But to his credit, I think that is a really strong and I think positive mentality for the end result of your work, not for your mental health.
I was just about to say, as long as it's not at the expense of yourself.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would deny that competition has created excellent products, maybe even entire species like human. But you can't be in that mode all day, every day.
For sure.
Because it does take a toll on you mentally. Yeah. To be like, if I slow down for 1 second, there are the wolves behind me who will drag me down and take my place, right?
It's just honestly, I don't know how I became Ryan Stratton just now, but in life you cannot create your own. You cannot build yourself, create your own effigy around one thing. You cannot define yourself by one thing, because when the inevitable happens, whether that be a relationship, whether that be your career, whether that be a hobby, when or your whatever, even your physical appearance, when the inevitable happens and that thing changes or goes away, you go with it, and there becomes a crisis.
It's especially difficult when you are known for one thing too. Primarily, right?
It is difficult
because you choose. That's the part of you that is well-known, successful, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it's easy to build that, use that as a foundation. but sometimes to the expense of everything else in your life, right? So I'm not saying that's what Matt did, but I'm just saying like I see that it's an easy trap to fall into.
Which is why it's good to go out and win some races.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
also winning races,
Yeah.
right? So no problem. We got that whole other thing, that whole other gig.
All right, guys. Well, Josh and Dennis, thanks a lot for joining me
Yeah, it was great.
in this. This was a really fun podcast.
Yeah.
Guys, we do this every week. Don't forget to check out the full VOD, and we have it obviously in audio, your preferred podcast curating method, iTunes, all that good stuff. Tweet at us. Let us know what guests you want to have on the show. If we have a guest coming up, please let us know what you want us to ask them.
I'm trying to get some Overwatch for you guys.
He is.
No promises.
He is.
No promises here, but I'm working on it.
Hey, next week we might have a big guest from the world of Dota. I'm not going to say who it is, but just stay
Big
tuned.
guest.
Big guest.
One of the biggest.
Capital B, baby.
Fire Toad. That's a clue.
Fire Toad.
Okay, that's
that
a
is not a
sick
clue.
clue.
Not only is that not a clue, but you are willfully misleading our listeners. So
And with that, I think it is time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
For Dennis and Josh, I'm Colin McNeil. This has been the Score eSports Podcast. Until next time, GG. Oh, hi.